All right, so we're on. Hey, Ali, how's it going?
Hey Reza, I'm great. How are you?
Very, very good. Good to see you. You look really good, really fresh.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
So, how's everything?
Good. Just this week, I've been really focused on creating a really good balanced routine for myself, basically. So, like going forward, we're going to be starting our project next week. So, just making sure that going into that, I have like all those balanced areas of like self care as well to make sure to help carry me through. So I've been really focused on that and trying to just get some habits in place and little things that will help me along the way.
Amazing. Really, really looking forward to the project, by the way. For those of you who don't know, Ali and I are working on a project together. She's the project lead. Very, very good lead. Super fun to work with. Really good communicator. And I'm really looking forward to it. So, that's only part of what you do though, right? And I really wanted
Yeah.
to, aside from obviously work, which we work a lot together and I'm learning lots. I wanted to know what are some of the other things that you do. I know that you're into Arbonne. You're working with them. You have a lot of other side projects that you do. I wanted you to talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a big proponent for multiple streams of income. I think that's so
Yeah.
important in today's society. I think that if you just have a job, you should be scared because you have no sense of security. There is really, it's kind of like golden handcuffs. Even if you think there's security, there's really not. And I think that especially during this time, people are realizing that more and more, that there's so many things outside of our control that can impact those things that we think are safe, right?
Right.
So nothing against having a job. Like obviously I have a job, we work together. But like you mentioned, I have other things outside of that. So I have an e-com business, which is my Arbonne business. So it's something that regardless of recession, regardless of what's going on in the economy, it's not something that's actually decreased. It's actually increased during this time. And especially on the side of the business opportunity, it's actually my favorite opportunity, and I would say my favorite of all the multiple streams of income that I have, because it's the one that allows you to leverage your time, which I think is so smart. And there's no other business out there, business model out there that I've found that really allows you to do that. So that's why I really love my Arbonne business, because I start working the same amount of hours and my paycheck grows as I build my business, but my hours doesn't grow. So I'm able to use that time to leverage so that I can really have time and financial freedom to do the things that are important to me.
And that's the
Um,
whole concept of leverage, right? That's very
yeah.
important. Can you just like explain that a little more? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people asking, like, what does really like leveraging your time mean, right?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So the easiest way to think about it is wherever you do right now, imagine there was nine other of you. And so every day, think of how much more you would get done, right? If there was nine Rezas and like all the work you need to get done in a day, like that's just basically it, right? I'm able to duplicate myself. So I'm able to sell franchises under me. I teach and train that person how to run their franchise. And
Mhm.
then that way they're able to run it on their own. And so basically I'm successful by helping other people, which is an awesome kind of sidebar, because you get to feel good um, working with people, helping people. If they succeed, you succeed, kind of thing. But really it's that time leverage component that's awesome, right?
That's
There's,
amazing.
like I said, there's no other business model I know that offers you that opportunity, right? So
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's very powerful. Like you said, if there's nine of you, you can do so much more, right? So let me ask you, how did you, get into this? Was it out of a need, or did you, get the inspiration from somewhere? Like, what was the inflection point where you said, okay, I do not want to have just one source of income, and this is what I'm deciding to do from here?
well, it's kind of funny because the multiple streams of income came later. I was raised probably like a lot of people, where it's like, go to school, get a good education. If you're an honest hard worker, you're set up for success. And I do believe that that's how it was for like our parents' generation, or those a little bit older than us, but times have really changed and that's not it. And you can see that, yes, like, of course you have to work hard, don't get me wrong, but if hard work was the answer, think of those people that have 3, 4 jobs. They would be millionaires, right? Like hard work is not the answer. It has to be something more than just that. So I took that traditional route. I did all of that. And I found myself just not really happy. It wasn't, this idea of success was not what I thought it was. Even though by society standards, I was successful. So I kind of had to take a step back and realize like what success meant for me. And that's when I think a lot of people go on that journey of kind of purpose and what's important in their life. I know that's important stuff for you too, right?
Definitely, definitely. I do appreciate that, and trying to find what my own purpose is, but not just that, just not being complacent, because it gets really, really easy when you have that regular cash flow from a 9 to 5 job to
Oh
remain
yeah.
complacent,
Yeah, and it is a false sense of security, right? Like it is that security that every 2 weeks I have that paycheck coming in. Like I totally get that. It's just all the things that are outside of our control, which actually brings me to kind of how I ended up with the multiple streams. So I knew like at the time I didn't like what I was doing. I wasn't happy with what I was doing, or this idea of like the life that I had built. It didn't look or feel like success to me, even though that's what society was telling me. And I was super closed-minded too. So I'm actually lucky. I was interested in Arbonne because of the products. I was looking for a really safe product. I was so sick of like feeling like I needed to be a scientist to go to Shoppers Drug Mart and get shampoo or body wash that wasn't like going to harm me. So I was just looking for a company that their ingredient policy was like really high standards. I could trust them and buy anything from them. So I didn't have to read the label anymore.
because
And
labels are very difficult to read.
oh my gosh, like and it's a scientific name. I get it, but it's just like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And
Yeah.
like, we're not, right? Like the average person is not. We have this illusion that somebody's out there taking care of us, that are looking at these ingredients. That's not the way it is, unfortunately. If you look into it, it's so scary. Like when you start looking into these things that are in our products, you're kind of like, no wonder it's like 50% of people have cancer now, and it's projected that by 2030 it'll be at 100%. So everybody
Wow.
within their life whole, like that's crazy.
Mhm.
And this is just based on things like within our choice. Like I know there's certain things like our air, we can't really, there's only
Yeah,
so
you
much
can't
choice. Yeah, I
control
could move to the country, but like there's still air, right? Like I can't control that. But you know what? I can control what I put on my skin, and I can control what toxins I'm allowing into my body that way, at least, right?
for sure. By
So
the way, side note, real
yeah.
quick, like you told me this as well, and I've been more cognizant of that now, where I don't put perfume cologne
Mm.
on my skin. I
Yeah.
try to keep a distance and put it on my clothing rather than
Yeah.
directly on my skin.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. That's a great tip. I'll share that too, actually, because it's a really good story. Because it's a friend of mine. She had thyroid cancer, and that's like what her oncologist told her. The first thing was to stop spraying perfume here. That's why, because it's full of phthalates, and phthalates your body can't get rid of them, and it basically ends up forming cancer eventually, because it can
Interesting.
never be. But yeah, so yeah, exactly. Spray your clothes. Don't spray it on your skin. I'm glad you remembered that.
Yes.
But it's all these things that are going to add up, right? So originally I was just looking for products. I wanted to feel safe, and I didn't want to have to feel like a scientist to read the labels. And like I said, I was super closed-minded. So at first I was like very, I had a huge ego. I was like, what are these girls doing? Why are they
Skeptical, yeah.
doing this? I was, yeah, like I didn't know, honestly. I was just ignorant. I didn't understand what network marketing was. So I was like, that I actually told the girl that I thought what she was doing was illegal, which I look back now and I cringe, like this poor girl. She was probably like, what do I say? Like, oh God, I just shake my head. But thankfully
You're
I went
probably
home and I Googled
yeah.
what is a pyramid scheme? And then I realized it wasn't, right? Like pyramid schemes are real. That's true. But there's also like this brilliant business model that lets you leverage your time, which people just don't even look at because they don't understand that there's a difference. And like the time leverage is what everybody's after. Like if you want a life of choice, that's it. Like I don't know a better option.
Yeah.
Like
So,
even if it's a choice to let you do what job you want.
So network marketing is different from, let's say, pyramid schemes, right? Because
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people would have that misconception, just
Yeah.
like you did in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, like what's great to know is that like network marketing is now taught in schools, like universities. It's taught at Harvard MBA as like a business model. So like it's legit. But basically, yeah, there are definitely illegal things that companies can do. So for example, if you get, basically, if I get paid when product doesn't leave the shelf, that's weird, right? Like that's kind of basically it. So it's like, I don't get paid to like recruit somebody. Like it's a business. If
Yeah,
product doesn't leave the shelf, I don't get paid, right? Like it's
that
not
makes
like
sense.
that. So there's certain things that, but it kind of would feel weird anyways, I think, to the normal person, that it'd be like, are you sure? Like that, like,
Yeah,
so definitely there are ways, but there's also, like I said, this brilliant business model that lets you leverage your time. Like what other job lets you do that?
right.
Like full time in Arbonne, I say, like most people, like they're like, oh, I can't work full time. It's like, you can't even possibly work Arbonne full time. Like full-time hours would be maybe 10, 15 hours a week spread out how you want.
That's
Like
nothing. That's
that's
really
full-time, right?
yeah.
Like, and that's doing it along, like that's full-time. That's not even what I do, because I have other things that I do on the side. So I work, 5 to 10 hours a week, like 1-2 hours a day, right? Like nothing crazy. But you're able to build something there's no glass income, right? And it's all based on your efforts. So most of us are out there hustling anyways. Like obviously we're working jobs, we're really working hard. We're just working really, really hard to make somebody else rich. And we're working really hard to give someone else time and financial freedom, when it's like, why don't you just do a little bit on the side for you and build that for you too?
For sure. And by the way, the most let me know if you see eye to eye with me. I think the most inefficient way to create capital is to trade your time.
Oh, 100%. Because it's limited. There's only 24 hours in a day. Even if
So
you're a lawyer or a specialty cert, like, even if you're making a crazy amount per hour, you're still limited for the number of hours. I'm not limited by the number of franchises that I can own.
mm-hmm.
And it's all based on referral, right? So it's like, there gets to be a point where it's like, I don't even know, but because I'm training my team, like they're off doing stuff. And it's like, it's like pushing a car up a hill. At first it's hard. And then once you get to the top, it's like easy.
You gain momentum for sure.
Yeah.
And for someone hearing this, and obviously they're in a position where, let's say they're just starting their career or they're well into their career, and they're like, okay, all of this sounds great, but how and where do I get, started? Is it something that you need to just naturally have, like a talent to be an entrepreneur or someone who has a side hustle? Or are there certain skills that you think, or certain habits or mental models that someone needs to develop in order to be able to actually start on their way towards that kind of journey?
I think starting is just, you have to actually get started. Like the good news is it's not an industry where you have to go to school. Like you don't have to go like med school, like go get an undergrad and then go to med school to be a doctor. Like it's not like that. You're going to still want to learn about it, of course, but what's awesome is that you can learn and grow while you're on that journey. I think the biggest thing is just being coachable. Like the awesome thing about the way network marketing is, like I said, if I sell you a franchise, for example, I have to teach and train you how to run that franchise.
Right. That makes sense.
I want you to be successful, right? So all of that is built in. The biggest thing is your personal development, because it's really not like, depending on the company, I can't really speak to other companies, but Arbonne it's like a product company that's a personal care product that's disguised by their products. Like it's about, when I'm talking to my team or business partners, it's really about 1% about the product. Like we all shower anyways, and the products are amazing, but it's like who you become. And that's true in anything in life, right? You realize that it's that journey of yourself, that you're whatever it is in your life, whether it be your business or your career or whatever that looks like, it only grows as big as you.
That's true. And this does also sound like when, instead of just being a consumer, you're also investing in the products that you buy yourself. So,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like if, that this is not the best example, but if I drink Coca-Cola a lot, then I might as well buy Coca-Cola stocks because the dividends pay me as well,
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The average household spends over $200 a month on personal care products.
Mm-hmm.
Put that into your own business. Like what is Mr. Shoppers Drug Mart or Mr. Walmart or Mr. Rexall doing for you? A whole lot of nothing. Like, to be honest, right? And you're going to get a better product. Like the great thing when you realize, like network marketing, Reza, as a black belt too, you're going to love this, because basically it just takes out all the inefficient and ineffective steps of the traditional retail model. So
I'm trying to picture this as like, there's so many gaps, and this would just fill in those gaps for you to your benefit, to your advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. So all the money that, for example, Arbonne or a network marketing company, social marketing company is able to save, because they're not paying for like a warehouse, they're not paying for advertising. Like we know Beyonce doesn't use L'Oreal, but we're paying her millions of dollars. Every product you buy, a portion of that goes to her. Like it's crazy, and we know that, right? So all the money that's saved along the way, because you don't have a storefront, like you don't have employees, you don't have all of that, that all is able to go back into our products, our research and development, so you can have really awesome products. Goes back into your price point, so we can actually offer them at a competitive price. Like our skincare, like because our products are the best quality, like our skincare line, for example, when they test it, it's in the luxury brand. So if it was sold in stores, it would be like Holt and like $4,000.
I see.
Whereas
Because of the work that gets put into it, so that it's
the supply chain, it's not
yeah,
even like, it doesn't make the product better. It's just you have to pay all the people along the way.
yeah,
So just
yeah.
cutting that out, and Arbonne just pays me instead of all those people, then you as a consumer also, and me as the consumer, get an amazing product at a regular price, like a Shoppers Drug Mart or a Sears Bay pricing. Like it's comparable to what we
Which,
would
by
have
the
been
way, I
buying
think
already.
that this is a very novel thing in general, because, you know, whether we're talking about skincare, whether we're talking about clothing or whatever, if you're able to deliver quality products to normal people as well, that's amazing. You're creating so much value, you know. Like,
Yeah.
think about, let's say, the iPhone, or just let's say what Kanye West is doing with clothing, where he's providing quality clothing but not at a lot of price,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's
Then
that's
everybody's your market, right?
yeah, yeah.
And especially with like the products in my store, it's all personal care and nutrition.
Hmm.
Who doesn't brush their teeth, wash their hair, use deodorant? Like,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that many people. And if you don't, it's okay. I'm going to move along. That's fine, right? Like, I'm not going to feel too bad. But yeah, it's also like stuff that everyone in every household uses every single day, and it's consumable. So guess what? When you get somebody that loves the product, they're going to continually rebuy, and that's how you build up a residual income. You build up multiple, like it's quite amazing the way you build that up. But yeah, it's all based on, like you said, you have to have a good product too. Like at the end of the day, if your
yeah.
product is shit, it
If a
doesn't
bad
matter who's
product,
on front
you
of it.
can't back it up if it's not
No,
good.
exactly. And then you're not going to have people like me who are willing to say that, right? Like the
Yeah,
reason I'm able to talk about the products is because I love them. I use them every day. So
and I must say, you are a very strong advocate of the things that you actually like sell as well. And you sent me some of those. Like, I got the powder sticks for
oh, the workout stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, those were good, because after the insanity
Oh
challenge,
my God.
I
Yeah,
would
I swear
have
by
those,
those.
and it would help with muscle recovery. I think it was like branch amino BCAAs, right?
Yeah,
Branch
exactly.
amino acids.
Yeah. I swear by those.
Yeah, those were good. And okay, so that's Arbonne. That's
Yeah.
really interesting, by the way. So
Yeah.
more power
Yeah.
to you on that. I know how much you love that. You also are a very strong advocate of, in general, self-development, mentorship programs, and always reaching out, networking, trying to understand how to make yourself better, right? So
Mhm.
can you talk a little about that? Where did that start from? When did it click that, you know what, I can be a lot better than I am right now? And based on the fact that you said you were closed-minded before. So
Yeah.
when did that kind of inflection point happen where you're like, all right, now it's time to change and I'm going to get into that area?
For me, well, I think all change comes, and I like to say it's like you got to get sick of your own shit, basically.
I agree.
Like there's a time where you're like, I'm just tired of feeling like this, whether
Mhm.
it's I'm sick, I'm whatever it is. Like I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired of feeling like shit. I'm tired of feeling overweight, whatever it is. I think that's, for me at least, that's what springs me to action. But what started it for me was actually my Arbonne business. You have to do personal development. That's the biggest thing. And I remember at first I really, was not super into it, but I realized that like that was the biggest thing. Like I didn't have a lot of confidence. I had a lot of social anxiety before. Like I wouldn't even agree to do this, but like if I'm in public, I would have wanted to like melt into the wall, like
Well,
crawl under a
I can't even
table.
see that now.
Yeah, like I'm a totally different person, and that's because I've worked on myself, right? So it just started, the books that my coach through my business was telling me to read. So it just started simply that way, and then taking it on what I was reading, like applying that into my life. So one of the first things that I applied that really made a huge difference for me was like affirmations.
Mhm.
I was reading this book, and it's funny because it's not really about affirmations at all, but The Millionaire Mindset. And it was the first time that I actually started to pay attention to my mind and what I was saying to myself, which sounds crazy now, but I had never thought about it before. And I realized when I listened to my brain for the first time, like it was awful. Like, it's like, I would drop this thing and be like, oh, you idiot. Like would be your first thought. And you're like, who are you? Like, no
And
wonder you don't have a lot
that's
of
scary,
confidence.
by the way, right? Like, we were talking about this, and how I know that people see affirmations as something that's kind of like, all right, what is this fake thing that I'm doing? But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, it's almost like, listen, you can either complain that affirmations are fake and there's no use to them, or you can understand that 95% of your, you know, decisions are subconscious and from your subconscious. And we
Yeah.
never know how we were programmed. Like we just don't know how, right? Like we were just
Oh
raised
yeah.
and that's it, you know?
Even down to the food we eat. Like we think we like the food we eat, and yeah, okay, you like it, but the food that grew up in my household and your household are completely different. So guess what? The foods we liked growing up were different. Not because we like I didn't like the food you ate or you didn't like the food. Like even down to that, like there's so much like you don't even realize, and we don't when you're not thinking about how you're being programmed, you just don't even, it's just not a thought. And that's how I was before. Like before I watched a lot of TV, like my mom watched a lot of TV and stuff. So I watched a lot of TV like in my teens and that. And like, I looked at magazines and celebrities and stuff like that. And like, no wonder I had no self-esteem. And like I said, and then you're listening to these messages of like the media that it's like, you're not good enough. Like all advertising is like, you're not good enough, right? They have to
By
make
the
you feel
way,
shitty to go buy their
that is
product.
literally how the world is run. It's by making you doubt yourself. I mean, not
Yeah.
the world, but businesses, right? Like it makes
Yeah.
sense for them to target your self-esteem,
Yeah.
and then you get, you know, trapped in this continuous loop of trying to fill that gap with something
Yeah.
external to yourself, and it never works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when you you got to accept it too, kind of thing. And you realize like, it's like a lifelong journey. It's going to be forever. That also like your awareness changes. So what I was working on 6 years ago that was so hard, now it's like I can see something totally different because I've like changed my mindset along the way and I've grown to this point.
Yeah.
And it's just something else, but there's not really like an end point.
There is no end point. Incremental improvements. And you mentioned something interesting. You said you read a lot, but then you also applied it, you know, because
Yeah.
there's also that other thing where you get stuck in this loop of reading thousands of different books on, let's say, self-improvement, but then if you don't apply any of them, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's all what you can actually take in. And so two of my favorite books, it's like The Slight Edge or The Compound Effect. It's kind of the same idea that it's just those little things that you do day in, day out. The little easy things that it's easy to do or easy not to do, right? Like, hey, maybe I'll make my shake for breakfast, or like maybe I'll have a glass of water as soon as I get up, or maybe I'll like go for a walk, like whatever. Like it's those things that over time make the difference. So it's like if you just focus, for me, I just like, I was a hot mess, I'm not gonna lie. So I started with like one thing, right? Like years ago, I didn't eat breakfast even, or I would eat like a McDonald's breakfast or like a Tim Hortons breakfast. Like
Yeah.
it would be awful. If I ate breakfast, it was definitely unhealthy. So I just started by like having a shake every day. And I knew that that was like 1,000 times better than anything else I could ever have. And now it's been probably 4 years that I've had a shake almost every morning for breakfast. Even when I travel, I usually always have my stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And it's adding those things that are going to add.
You become more disciplined for sure. And like you said, it's the small things, because most of us, at least this is the way I was, and sometimes I still do fall into that trap where I'm like, all right, I want to change the world, I want to do so much, etc., etc. And then I realize, all right, so get up, like do your bed, get up, you know, don't check your phone directly after you wake up, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that does set the tone for
Yeah.
your
It
day,
makes a difference. Yeah.
right?
It
Yeah.
really does. Yep.
And just things like that, you know, you already are aware of the things that I've, you know, been through my kind of ups and downs in certain areas, and doing small things can add a lot of value. So for example, meditation, or just being conscious of when you're starting to slip into a negative mindset. Not to say
Mm-hmm.
avoid it, don't avoid it, but at least be conscious of it, because you can't
Yeah.
avoid it, but you can still be like, observant of it, right?
Yeah. And that's, I think, a really good point is that you can't like avoid the negative feelings in life. They're going to happen. Um, and you have to like, you have to like, if it's a thought, either, you know, you need to observe it, like let it go on its way, or if it's a negative situation, you need to deal with it in a positive way that puts you in command of that situation, right? In charge of the situation, to feel comfortable, like as confident as you can, like no matter what you're, because life throws shit at you. I used to have it's weird. I used to think like successful people didn't have problems for some reason. I don't know why. It was like, as soon as you're successful, like nothing bad happens. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know why.
I see. I used to see it that way as well. It's because we just see the surface, right? We just see the
Yeah.
part.
But it's not, yeah, it's not that. Like you said, like those negative thoughts will happen and negative things will even happen in life sometimes. And it's how we deal with them. It's how quickly we bounce back. It's not about like, you have to feel that, you have to go through it. Otherwise it's going to end up being a blockage at some point in time. But you also have to make sure that you're like how quickly you bounce back is going to make all the difference.
For sure.
And can I tell you, have you read The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod?
The Miracle Morning. I need to write that down because I actually haven't. Oh, but yeah, tell me about it, please.
It's great though. And actually, like you're saying, like having those morning habits is super important. I know you know that. But he has a really great thing that he calls it his 5-minute rule. And he says something like, you know, it's okay to be negative when bad things happen, but only for 5 minutes. And then you have to say, can't change it and move on.
Okay, interesting. So you can mourn it and you can actually like feel bad, but just for a limited amount of time. Don't
5
limit
minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah.
And like, doesn't matter how big. So like he said at first it was hard when he started applying this, right? Because it's like, we're human. It's kind of, sometimes you like to be in your pity party, right? I've been there too, where you're like,
sure,
you kind of like feeling a little bit justified and a little bit like huffy, like we're all there, right? We're human.
For sure. Victim mentality as well.
Yeah.
Kind of, I mean, that's the worst end of it, but for sure,
Yeah.
we like to feel bad and sometimes just be there. Yeah.
Well,
sure.
and then you don't have to act, right? But anyway, so, you know, at first it's easy, or it's hard to get out of that. But now he said that he doesn't even want to be upset about something for 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes is too long for him. He doesn't want to waste 5 minutes being upset about anything. And this guy was in a car accident and he was told he was never going to walk. Like, it's not like he's applying this to like little, like, okay, someone cut me off in traffic. Oh, I spilled my coffee. Yeah. Like, and he isn't like I saw him speak. He was walking. But like he was told that. And like the doctors even went to his family and said, hey, like we think he's delusional because like he's not distraught and upset and like normally how people they see people reacting. But he had practiced 5-minute rule that he was like, okay, after 5 minutes he's like, all right, if I'm gonna be paralyzed, that's it. So what, like, you know, let's move forward.
The doctors were like, this guy's in a shock. I don't think he knows what he's saying.
Yeah, like legit, they had never seen it, but he's just like that resilient, which is crazy. And that's just like by practicing, right? Like it's just building that muscle. Yeah, and like you said, like
that's very admirable. I'm not sure like how I would personally like deal with that or do that, but that's very interesting to think about, because if one person can reach that level, then I'm sure everyone can. But it takes
absolutely
it takes a lot of conscious effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like it's like anything, it's like that journey, right? Like
I agree.
You're not going to be good at it day one. And like he even said he wasn't good at it day one, but now he doesn't even want to waste 5 minutes. Like I can't even think of that. Like I'm like, really, 5 minutes is not that long.
That's actually very admirable.
So yeah, it's a cool little trick to use. Like I try to remember that for myself. If like for those types of things, like if something negative happens, you have a negative thought, like those kind of things, like it's okay. Like it's going to happen. We're human, right?
And is that called the miracle? Is this the Miracle Morning too?
It's from the Miracle Morning. It's
okay.
Like it's called his 5-minute rule, but it's from that book.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'll take a look for sure. And talking about Miracle Morning with like books in general, what are your reading habits like?
So for me, I always usually have a few books on the go. I'm always reading something for personal development, like for my Arbonne business. I do coaching through the Proctor Gallagher Institute, so I'm always reading something there. Like right now, I'm reading The Science of Getting Rich for that. And then we have a book club at work, so I'm usually reading that one. So I try to read like 10 minutes here and there. Like I don't normally spend very much time reading in a big chunk, but like I said, like usually about 10 or 15 minutes at a time, I'll try to squeeze it in. Or like audiobooks are really good too. I help find that. But I usually have more than one on the go, but I spend at least 10 minutes a day reading, whether that be audio or actual like book.
That's really good. By the way, shout out to TPG Book Club. Alli founded that as well, which is really, really good, because I think we need to take some time away from work to sit down and discuss these things as a team. I mean, in general, I think what the book club has turned into is kind of like a think tank as well, where you not only read and understand, then you come in to discuss what you learned and discuss it with the team, which is really interesting.
Yeah. And I think like for me, the biggest thing, like if you're doing personal growth, it is going to impact every area of your life. Like, it's good for yourself. Yeah, for sure. If you're just selfish and thinking of you, wonderful. Like, and that's not a bad thing if it's just for you, but it also impacts every relationship that you have and your ability to do your job and everything like that. Like how you show up and what you do every day is impacted by your personal growth. So everyone around you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, everyone is going to benefit from, even though that time we're spending, it's not on like, straight work skills, like tactical skills. It's the soft skills that are really what's going to drive everyone to the next level.
For sure. No, for sure. And you're basically shining your own light of knowledge to those around you when you engage in those types of activities. And you said that sometimes you read, sometimes you listen to podcasts. It's the same with me. Like, I figured when I'm really busy, let's say I want to clean my room and I want to listen to a podcast, I'll put it on and that's going to be in the background. I'm actively listening, but then I'm still able to do some other things.
Those are the best. I love doubling up things because it's hard, right? Everybody's life is busy, but anywhere you can like double up stuff like that, it's so good. It makes things so much better. But I always try, like, I have a dog, so when I'm walking the dog, when we used to go to, like, when we used to, as you can see in the background.
Yeah, there.
When we used to be going to work, like if I drove to work for a commute or like took the subway, I would listen, one way I would listen to my book, and then the other way I would listen to my affirmations. So that's another really good thing that you can do is you can also like record your affirmations, or just like YouTube.
Customize them?
Yeah, like I honestly use both. So I have some customized ones that I read and I put like Hertz music in the back while I'm reading it. So then I can just listen to it on a loop.
Yeah.
And then I also, honestly, YouTube is amazing. Like I know, like I love it. You can positive affirmations for anything. Like,
yeah, there is a lot
confidence, public speaking, like, improve your physical appearance, like literally anything that each individual could possibly be wanting to work on. There's affirmations out there already. So it's not like you have to know exactly what you're doing to get started. It's just like figure out, what voice resonates with you. It's going to sound weird. So like you were saying, Reza, like it kind of seems like an odd like thing to do.
Yeah.
And what I find is like think about your brain is programmed on a loop. So it wants to go through the easy loop. So when something seems weird, it's because it's on the not easy loop. It's like a new loop. And it's like, wait, we don't know how to do this one.
Yes.
You're normally going like this.
100%.
So whenever, for me, if I'm like, oh, this is weird, and I kind of have like a weird like not like negative, like appalled, like there's also that kind of reaction where you just have to go with what like energetically fits with you.
Yeah.
But like when I'm kind of like, like that's not like me. That's when I know it's also good for me because that's not what I'm programmed at. Like, right? Like it's confirming that you're right. This isn't how you're programmed yet, but you can be.
For sure. These loops sometimes kill us, Alli, honestly. Like
I
have so many loops that I keep replaying and it's just like a short circuit now. Like it's a shortcut. You're like, it's so comfortable to fall back into that conventional loop of like thinking that just doesn't help you progress. It actually takes away a lot of opportunities from you and just overall makes you a person that is like probably a tenth, 100th of what their potential could be. So these affirmations definitely, I have faith that they work, but obviously there's other people who, like Mark Manson in Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, he says when you are doing affirmations, you're almost telling your brain that, hey, there's already something wrong with me. That's why I have to do this. But, my counterpoint to that would be, well, who cares if there is something wrong with you and you want to fix it?
That's why I am doing it.
Yeah,
that is true. That's exactly why I'm trying to fit. Like for me, like confident, like in all on, I get what he's saying and you're like, okay, I get it. But it's also like when you know how the brain works, you're like, I'm just going to use my brain to my advantage. Like I'm going to program the things in there that I want to be in there, because if I'm not programming it, something else is.
For sure.
So all of our brains, like everybody today, our brains are all programmed, whether we like to think that or not. And if you think that your brain isn't programmed, that just means somebody else programmed it for you. And that could be multiple, right? Like ads, TVs, movies, friends, work, school, like family, like if we're not conscious about what's doing it, like someone's doing it for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that it's just not being programmed. It's being programmed from somewhere, right?
So for you, what have been some of the things you've been using, incorporated into your life? I know you've been, you said the mindfulness, like meditation and stuff.
Yeah, the main thing is really meditation. I've been starting to go on these runs now. I know we did the insanity a lot together. Now I switched that a little bit with running. And what I figured with running is at some point when you're just in that flow, you forget about everything else and you're just focused on your breathing, which to me it sounds like another form of meditation.
Yeah,
And then also you
100%.
get the runner's high, by the way. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I actually like feel a little high after running, especially if I
Yeah.
really push myself. It's
Yeah.
funny because I finish and then I'm just walking back home and everything is just like a lower volume, you know, like the world's volume is just like
Yeah, that's true.
turned down a little. Yeah. Which to me is very therapeutic because I'm just very calm in that state. So there's meditation, and then what we talked about before as well, journaling. I think that's really, really interesting. A friend of mine said when you journal, it's like your lower self is communicating with your higher self. So when I put the pen to the paper, it just keeps flowing because there's just so much in there, and you're like, let me untangle these different knots that are in my brain, right? So either writing, which helps, or just speaking to someone that you trust. In general, these sorts of things is like you empty yourself, which I found interesting. Now, reading books, just like you said, but I have a weird habit. I read books, then I kind of leave them half read. I start another one, then I come back to this one, and then it's kind of like I don't go from A to Z with a book. I go to parts I find interesting. I read those, then I jump to another one, then I come back. It's just kind of like that. So I don't know how you do it. You read from A to Z, right?
I do, but I also am a full believer in like you have to like if a book is not resonating with me, if it's just I'm not getting into it, I will not read it. Like I'll just put it down. I don't care. Wherever I am at it, if it like, and I just think that we need to just take whatever message is supposed to come to us at that time. Because think if you even if you read the same book like for say 3 or 5 years apart, you're gonna pick up and see different things that you hadn't even remembered, and like because you're a different person. So I think that's a really cool thing that you do, because it's basically you're just figuring out what the messages is from each of those that you need right now, and you're gonna pick up the next like what's next that you need from that book, and like what next section. Because I think that's like it's just listening to ourselves, right? Like whatever message is meant for you, like at that time will come through. That'll be what's going to come out. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny you say this because I've read books that I started 5 years ago and now I'm back to them and now they make a lot more sense than they did 5 years ago. Right.
And like at the time you would have felt like, or I know before I would used to feel like shitty, like putting a book down, like, oh, something's, I don't know, like even though nobody else would know, it was like, I felt like bad for some reason, like a failure.
Or why am I not seeing this through or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. And then now, like you said, later when it's meant, like you're at this point where you're gonna see the right message and it's gonna resonate, then you're gonna enjoy it. And
definitely.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
It clicks right away. And then so that's the book, like the reading part, and then obviously just trying to stay in shape. You know about that too, like doing insanity challenges together and all that. I think that's had a very huge effect on my mood in general, because I figured the days that I'm not like that I don't exercise, I feel bad, you know, and not to say I'm like an Olympic athlete or whatever, but it's just
yeah, you are.
my body is just conditioned.
I am.
Well, I love the mentality. That's how we need to move forward, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's how it is for me.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right, because the exercise too, especially we started this during this work from home period, so that we had like a workout thing to do online, and it's great because the insanity is really hard. I'm terrible at it, but it's an amazing workout. We've been doing it for a few months, and yeah, like I'm with you. You notice right away, not like physically is obviously so much better for you, but mentally it's so good. Stress reliever, like you were saying, for the running, like all of that, like just having that and having the group just helps make it so much more accountable. So the like days that you're like, maybe I won't today, and everybody else is doing it, you're like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then 5 minutes in, you're so happy that you did it, right? Like
for sure,
it's just getting you there.
And I've seen people get results, you know, like shout out to Cody. He's
oh my God, yeah, he's getting
really
super ripped.
results. Yeah, he's
super ripped.
But yeah, I think that in general, I always say it's really interesting that you, like working with you, and as a person, you're always very positive, and not in a fake way, like positive in a way that, okay, so there is bad things happening, you know, I'm not gonna act like life is all rainbow,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm
You don't have
just
to be
gonna like,
delusional.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, no, nothing bad is happening, obviously. But you choose to at least respond to it in a different way, which is interesting because I realize when I'm meditating, the guy or the girl who usually talks to me, like the guided meditation person, they say, um, observe your thoughts and just let them come in, and, you know, be observant of them, because that provides a little space before you react to something.
Mhm.
And that's also what you do as well, right? You choose how you want to react in certain situations, whether it's bad or good. Mostly, let's say bad, because that's the time you really need to observe. And you do that, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I think in any situation, we always have a choice, right? There's good and bad in everything that we can look at. Like, I could look and be like, hey, I'm so annoyed at the way people are acting right now. Like, or I could say, you know what, this is such a blessing because it's showing me the people who are aligned with me. Like, literally every situation. And like, and this is not to by any means like downplay any crazy things that people have been through, any trauma or anything like that. But you can apply, like, applying this to trauma experiences that I have been through is what helped me too, right? Like, just really changing your perception and having gratitude and realizing, like, you know, there is this quote that I read actually that just kind of puts everything into perspective for me. And it was always like, you know, if we all put all of our problems in a circle and you saw everybody else's problems, you would take your own back.
I love this quote. Yeah, this is
And it's so
definitely.
true, because you realize you're like, oh shit, yeah, like, because at least you know how to deal with your own problems. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know, man, like, you keep your stuff, I'll keep mine. Like, and it just reminds you, like, okay, like, yeah, we all have our own stuff, but I can deal with this. And it's like, gratitude is like, that also has made a huge difference in my life. Like,
gratitude.
because like, even, you know, at my worst, when I had really bad depression, really bad anxiety, I was working in a really, really toxic work environment. So like, every day just felt like so stressful. And, you know, it was one day that I remember driving home that there was this huge shift. And it was kind of like, I had to say to myself, like, what the F is wrong with you? You live downtown Toronto, you live in a condo, you live by yourself. Like, is your job amazing? No, it's not, obviously. Like, do you like, but you know what? Probably 75% of the world would change spots with you in a heartbeat, even knowing that it's a horrible, toxic environment.
Yeah. More than 75 too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Like, I was just picking a random number, but yeah, like, it's like, come on. Like, so it's really realizing you have to put it in perspective. Like, and that's all, like, that's us. And that's a muscle, right? So like, in every situation, we can choose to respond, or we can just fly off the handle and react however. But when we respond, that's when, yeah, we get to take a step back. We get to have the proper energy and really decide how we want to feel about every situation, because nobody can make you feel a certain way, right? Like, that's on us.
Definitely, definitely. I second most of that, or all of that actually. And I will say that most of it. I will say that I don't want to, you know, talking like you said in the place of people who've been through traumas, obviously. But I think, to your point, it is a muscle, and um, the more that you practice that muscle, the better you will be at taking a step back, even in the heat of situations, which is
Yeah.
something that is such an important skill in life, right? Because
Yeah.
there's certain things that happen in the heat of the moment where you have to make a decision, and those decisions in that heat of the moment usually decide certain things, or certain things happen after that. So
Yeah.
you can control that, but you can't control what happens after that, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. You're free to choose your how you want to react, but you're not free of the consequences,
for
right?
sure. And that's something that I am practicing. And obviously, I'm not perfect, not even near perfect. But I think for anyone listening, it is something worth practicing, because
Yeah,
regardless of
absolutely.
what you're doing, with who you are, where in the world you are, you will need this skill.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just getting through the day to day, like having the resilience in life, because life does throw a curveball. Like, it happens to us all. Nobody's exempt from like difficult things. So
Yeah.
you just have to learn how to deal with it. And when you deal with it with the small things, then you're going to be able to get to the point and like you were saying, like more like the bigger things, like the traumas and stuff like that. And it doesn't take away, like I saying, the seriousness of it, but like even for myself, being able to look at some of the things I've been through and to be able to say, well, you know what, that was actually a blessing. Like that was for me. That didn't happen to me. That happened for me. And as a result of that, I'm able to connect at a deeper level with people and understand people on a deeper level. Or like I get to choose that story. And why not choose the story that feels better, but also like is better for you? Like we get to choose. Why not choose the one that is going to make you feel good? Like that idea of like faith versus fear, right?
I appreciate that mindset. I second that. Not most of it, all of it.
You can only, most of it is
fine. So before the project starts, do you have any plans for the weekend?
Yeah, I have business stuff to do. So some Arbonne stuff. I have a new business partner that's starting. And then as well, one of my other businesses is that I do speaking. So right now we're in the middle of launching a one-day empowerment workshop. So actually, if anybody is interested in checking this out, you can go on my Instagram. And from there, you can get a link in my bio under Alli Gage. And it's one day all going through everything from your purpose, your goal, creating that mindset, understanding the brain and how the brain works, which is super cool. Like it's insane. Can I tell you guys a quick story? I can tell you a quick story.
Of course.
This is not my section. This is not the part I talk about, but one of my friends, she's a psychotherapist, knows everything about the brain, but it's so interesting. She always has such cool examples and stories. But she was explaining that, this idea of perception, right? And like our brain fills in blanks. And depending, like so like with trauma, not everything, you and I can see the same thing. I could be traumatized. You could be completely fine. Versus, and like, so it's very, very personal. It's a lot of things. So for example, there was a small child that actually saw 9/11, like saw the people jumping out of the building at 9/11. And they thought he was going to be really traumatized, obviously. But like he went to the psychiatrist or whatever after, and he was drawing a picture. And like, so the people, there's the buildings, the people jumping out. And then there's like this big black thing at the bottom, like a big black circle. And the guy's like, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's the trampoline. They were just like jumping onto a trampoline. I'm like,
oh, wow.
So like the kid was not traumatized at all because the story his brain had filled in was that they were just jumping onto a trampoline. So everybody was okay.
That's crazy how like a little shift in perception can change your entire life.
And yeah, and change, like that would have literally changed the course of that kid's life, right? Like depending on how he saw, and like that's not, you don't choose that, but in that situation, like when trauma happened, but that's what we get to choose every day for everything else, right? Like, so you get to learn all about the brain too. I'll teach you all about resilience, like how do you grow like your perception, how do you get out of pity parties, like all of that, because it's all, like you're saying, it's all practice, it's all a muscle, like any like leadership, like grit, all of those things. Nobody has more than you. It's just up to you to.
For sure. And there is no virtue in pity parties. There is absolutely no virtue in that. Because I used to feel good about that, whether it's something bad that happened, breakup, whatever it is. And just talking to my friends, wanting that energy or that attention. Oh, Reza, no, like, come on, man, get your shit together. That's really interesting though.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested in that workshop, you can find me on Instagram, and it's an evergreen program. So it's available all the time.
Right?
Yeah. ALLIGAGE on Instagram. In my bio, there's a link, and you'll see that it's available all the time. So it's awesome because you can do it. I've actually done it a bunch of times too, because it's good whether you have like a current goal or you're not sure. You're just like, hey, I know I want to do something different. I want to change. I just don't know where I am yet. It's good for both. So I've been using it on like some new goals that I've been able to create through the work, and then as well apply the work to some of my old goals to help me move those forward.
Interesting. So I do need to reach out maybe on that as well, because I don't have Instagram. As you know, I'm out of the culture now for a little bit. It started in January, and then I just kept on with it, and it's had really good effects on me. But thank you for that. I'll ask you offline for some.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I know that you're busy as well, and it seems like we got I don't know if you're joining that, but we got the happy hour as well.
Yeah. So happy hour, Stan.
Yeah. I appreciate the time. Appreciate your time. I know you're busy. It was a very good conversation. Obviously, there's so many other conversations to be had. So this is not the only time that we'll talk here.
Perfect. That sounds great. I always love chatting with you. So you can
Appreciate that.
welcome me back anytime.
Thanks, Alli.
Thanks, Rez.